Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we continue with our Google Drive clone here. So let's fix a few things here and continue. Then we can do the sign up. Our final thing will be the sign up and log in, and then adding permission to these files. So you can share the files with people you want, or you can make them public. That's up to you. Okay, so to begin with here, there's a selection going on when you click on each one of these, but there's no way to actually remove or clear the selection, because no matter what I do here, something will be selected unless I refresh the page. So we want, if we click again on something that was already selected, it should be deselected. So let's fix that right now. So let me go to our index.html page, and let's look at the select part. What part does the selection? Let's look at the object. So there's a table here, select, right there. Okay. Now, selected is the actual item that was selected. Now we can check to see if the selected item is equal to the one that has just been selected, and then we deselect. So here we deselect everything, right? So everything deselected. And then before we remove this, let's keep the old selected version. So here I'm going to say table.selected. Let's do this and say let old selected is equal to table.selected. Okay, so that's the old selected because we are removing it from the selection at this point. So we just want to keep in memory this one. So at some point, once we deselect everything, right, then here we should only run this part if it is not true that item is equal to the old one. So here I'm going to do this and say if item is not equal to the old select. Now let's see here. I don't know if not equal to will work. Let's do double equal sign there. Let's do this, and I'm going to duplicate that and push everything in and remove this closing bracket. So the selection only happens if it is not the one. So let's try this out. I'm going to click here and click again. It doesn't seem to be working at all. Okay. Let's see here. We remove that. Okay, what I'm going to do here is do a return like that, so that we end here and see what happens. Do we still make a selection when we do that? So it doesn't make a selection, which means it's probably going through here. So I'm going to move a return there. Let's try it here. Okay, so that doesn't work either. So let me move like this. Let me put an alert here. I want to see if it's actually going through this part here, inside the if statement, that is. So it seems it is. There, it's not true. Wait, what am I doing here? Let's see, table.selected. Okay, so let me grab this table.selected at this point. Wait. Let's do old selected here. Let me do a console.log instead. I want to see what the old selected is at that point. So inspect, go to the console. So click on this, it's empty, the old select is empty, which is rightly so. If I click it again, it's actually an object now. Okay, so it says it's not equal. I don't know how it compares those two. What the best thing would have been to do is to add IDs to each one of these guys, and then okay, what I'm going to do is, since we are looping through the children here, if it's in the same location, then it should be the one. So what I'm going to do is, let's do this. I want to figure out a better way to compare the old and the new item together. Okay. So what I'll do is, I'm going to say selected underscore ID is equal to, let's put a no value there as well. Okay, so selected ID, let's reset that as well. So now we can keep the old ID, and just to see if it's the same ID that we get here. Now, how do we set this ID? Right here. Once we... Oh, no. This will not work at all. Okay, let's switch things a little bit here. We'll switch things up a bit. I'll remove this. I can keep this selected ID and let the old one. That is fine. This is fine. I need a better way to identify this content here to see. So I think an ID would be better. So what I'm going to do is, when adding these things, I want to give an ID to each table row. So where we're adding table rows is where we create these objects. This is in here, in the refresh table. So here, when we create the table row, so document.create element, and then we add stuff to it. Now, before we add anything, or we can do this before or after, I can do tr.id is equal to, or you can use set attribute, and then the attribute is the ID, we'll say is equal to I. So for every table row that we add the I integer as the ID. Okay. Oh, this is not how you set the attribute. The value should be on this side here. You put a comma and then the value. Now, I don't want to add just the numbers. So what I'm going to do is, I'll add some text as well. I'll say tr and then underscore and then plus I, like this, so that the ID of each item is tr and then its actual ID there, so that there's a bit of text in the ID. Okay, so once we have that, it means now, well, you can see this in action. If I now refresh the page like so, and then I do inspect, oh, I can't do that anymore. I'll inspect here and let's just find the table. So let's go here inside this div, and there's a table, and then there's a table body, and then as you can see here, each table row has an ID tr0, tr1, tr2, tr3, and so on. So we can use those numbers now to know if we selected exactly the same thing before and after. So at this point, if this is not the same and we get to this item parent node, then table.selected item is item. So here I'm going to do selected ID is equal to item dot ID, or you can use the get attribute to get the ID, and then you call the attribute name like that. Okay, but we want to replace the string. Actually, we don't need to replace anything, just that ID is fine. And then here we can check item dot if those IDs are the same. So old selected ID okay, so if item dot get attribute ID is equal to, now here you can equally just say item dot ID, it works just fine. I like to do it this way for some reason. If this is not the same as the old select, then let's do this. So let's see if this will work as intended. So refresh, click. Now it's not even selecting at all. Okay, so let's see what the mistake is. So to see at the beginning, when it's empty, these are never the same, so it will never work. So let's do this. We're gonna say if old selected ID is equal to no, we still have to make it work. Or, so if it's empty or this is not equal to that, then we can run on either case. So let me refresh and click, it works. Click again, it doesn't work. Click, click, click. Okay, so what's happening here? So of course, right, this is sent to a no immediately. Old select ID. If that is equal to no, okay, great. Or let me do some console.logs here. So first of all, I want to get the attribute for the current item, and then I want to get the old ID. That way I see what kind of comparison is happening here. So let's refresh. Now if I click the first time, it's no and no. So those are both empty. So the old select is no. This shouldn't be no. It should have something. So what exactly is item? Okay, item is this one, and while item, okay, so if item do tag name is table row. Okay, so this is my bad. You know, this could have worked with a simpler code if I had just put it in here. So this is where the problem is. So the if statement shouldn't be here at all. So I'm going to remove this if statement from there, cut it out, and paste it here. So this is my bad coding. Let me move this like so. Okay, that way, at this point, the item is actually a table row. So this is the place this should happen from. Okay, so let me remove this as well and move this whole thing back. So what this is doing is capturing the table row and then checking after we confirm it's a table row, then we check what properties it has. If they don't match, we don't add a selection. So refresh, click, 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 click. Okay, so let me see if this can work without me having to have this ID here. So what I'll do is, if this is null without the ID, or item is not equal to old selected, just like that. Let's see if that works. So refresh, click. Okay, old selected is not select ID. So this should be table.selected instead. So let's do that, because we're referencing this value here. Okay, so that doesn't work. So let's put it back as it was. Redo. Okay, so this works better, and that's good. All right, that's cool. Now, what I want from this is when I click on here, I want the file details to change here according to the file. And then when I remove the selection, it shows no file was selected. So once we begin, it should just show no file was selected. So here we can create an object called file info or something like that. So let's do that object down at the end here. So I'm gonna do var file info is equal to open close. So file info dot show, like that. And then we do a dot hide, of course. Now show file info dot show. Here we have to set maybe the ID of the content that we are trying to show here. So I'm gonna say ID. We don't need an ID to hide, because we're just gonna hide the information that's there, so that's fine. So what I'm gonna do is find a way to grab these guys. So I'll give this one an ID and this table an ID. So let's start with the no files was selected. Let me find it in here. So I'm gonna copy that and do a find. So no file was selected. This is the only find here. It has a class here. Let's say JS info no file. So you can name these as you wish, of course. Actually, let me put it on this one. This is the main container. So I'm gonna put that there. So we can hide and open this, and then I'll put the hide class. That way it's hidden from view, like so. Okay. And then file details as well. Maybe, so these two will swap. Depending if the file is selected or not, they're going to swap. So right now it will show like this if I have a selection done. So let me grab the file. Where is this div? This right here. Let me see what happens if I try to hide that one. Okay, I think that works just as well. So maybe we can put it here where there's file details. Let's see. No, that's a bit too far. The only problem I have is this has to, the file info thing has to disappear with this. Okay, so right here on this one, I'm gonna say JS so that I can grab that as well. just JS info details or something. Let's try JS file info. Okay, so now I can grab either of those. So there's JS file info and JS info no files. Copy, save. Let me go down here. So let's grab those files. So when we decide to hide those, what we really want to show is the no file thingy here. So say dot class list dot remove the hide. So we are hiding it, which means we show. When we hide the file info, we are showing the no file selected. So this one should show, and then we hide the other one. So let's add a hide to the JS file info. So the opposite is true for this one. So let's just swap these. All right, so show one or the other. Okay, so the best way to do the showing here is to run this when we click on the table. So where is the table? So this is the part where we select things. So, Okay, so what I'm going to do here is put an else statement. And I'm going to say file info dot hide. Here dot show. Okay. So let's try this out. I'm gonna click here, remove that. Okay, okay. So seems to be kinda working. But initially, this should be off as well. So this one right here. It needs a hide class, but this does not need a hide class. Because once we refresh the page, I want to see no file was selected. But then when I select a file, then I see details. So now the question is, how do we update the information as we click over here, right? So the best thing to do is to probably just keep the information locally so that we can access it like this and use it. So to keep the information locally, let's create a few variables here. So for example, I can say var rows is equal to an empty array, and then okay, so we're going to use the logged in to know whether we're logged in or not, and then this is the number of rows that we can get. This is going to keep all the rows that we grab from the server side, and we keep them in here. That way, when we click on this, we can just go to that array to find out what was clicked and what information does it have. So these rows should, let's say here, table select, table refresh is what I'm looking for. So right about here, where we are looping through object.rows. Now before we do that, I can just let's see, table. I could just say rows is equal to obj dot rows. Now, so since the rows have been saved inside rows, then we can use that now. So let me see here, go down. So when we show here, I just want to echo out some information. For example, the file name. So here I'm just going to say rows oops. Let's do this. Let's say let row is equal to that row in that is saved inside rows. Then I can do a console.log to see it. So if I now refresh and click on one of these, nothing happens. So let's figure it out. Let me try to add an alert here so that I know it actually gets to this point. Okay, so okay, it does get there once I click. So then what is the problem? Okay, so let's do maybe a console.log rows. Let's see what's in there. Okay, check the console. So it does show an array here, which is an empty one. Okay, so the problem is the array comes in empty. So why is this? Let's see where we've used the array. Okay, here this should have been a single equal sign. That's why. When you put double equal sign, it becomes an evaluation. It's supposed to try and see if the left hand side is the same as the right hand side. Okay, so that's undefined, which is weird. Let's do table.rows. That's to make it more in line with what we are using already on the other. So table.rows, and then we move it from there and put it inside table. Selected ID is no longer a, oh, it actually does work. Here we put commas. Okay, so syntax error, let's click to see it. Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm using an equal sign here. I should use a full colon. Okay. Okay, so it's still showing undefined. which is weird. So what is going on? Data doesn't seem to be saved when we create this. Object table.rows is got object.rows. Okay, let's try and do a console.log here of table.rows. Okay, still says undefined. But what was this? Let me refresh one more time. This comes naturally. Okay, so the first time we load the page, if I refresh now, you'll see that we have an array that is saved properly, which is nice. But when we click, we see undefined. So let's see here. So which means here on the receiving end, things are working fine. It's when we click, that's when the problem comes in. So let's see here what's happening. So let rows, okay, table.rows. Okay, I think that will work now. Refresh, click. Okay, so that's working. And let me undo this. The reason is the ID here. We're not supplying the ID when we do the .show thing. So let me find all instances of file info. So here where we say file info.show, right? We should know what the ID of this item is. And we can do that by grabbing the get attribute ID. But the problem is the ID of these items is written like this: tr1 or tr2, just like that. So we want to remove this tr dash and remain with just the number that we can pass in here. So here we can say item.getAttribute ID, and then we do dot replace. So here we figure out what we want to replace and replace it with what? An empty string. And then you can parse this whole thing as integer, but let's try it as it is. Okay, so here it's showing me the information on that file. If I click here, it shows me. If I click there, and so on. So now I can use that data to fill up this space here. So let's do a quick fill up here and see how that works. So on the table refresh, where is this? On the click, file info right there. So I'm gonna remove this. So this one is a single row, not rows. So row like that, great. Now I need to be able to grab those items from JS file info, right? So let's do this. Let file info panel is equal to this. So let me remove that. And then we'll say file info panel dot class list dot remove height, and then also this same file info panel, we need to do query selectors of specific items in there. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab the file info, grab an item from it, and then change the inner HTML to a specific value. So here we're gonna start with, since we know raw is the thing, so we'll say raw dot file name. So that's what we are putting in whatever it is we grab here. I'll put a dot because I know it's a class. And let's go to, let me find where this is. Oh wait, yeah, this right here. So no file was selected, right? But I want this part, this info. Okay, we grabbed it here for real. That's great. So there it is. Now in here, if I grab a very specific item, where is T-body? T-body is here. So there could be one row here, but let me think here a little bit. Actually, we don't need this here because the T-body here is replaced. Oh, no, actually it's not replaced. This is the other table, the smaller table. I'm getting a little confused here. Bear with me. Oops. I'm just cleaning up here. So there's a header and the value, the key and the value, and so on. So we just need to change these parts here. So I'm going to empty these, and this one as well, the date as well, and this date modified as well. All right, so what we're going to do is these, we're going to give classes to them. I'm going to say class size. Let's put another class here, or you can use ID instead of class. That's fine as well. So file, size, and then another class here for date created. And then where is this here? Another class for date updated. Okay, what other information do we need here? All right. Okay, so let's grab this, that, and that, and edit the data. So to do this, we're going to go down here one more time where there's file info. And then here we'll do query selector dot file. Oh, wait a minute. Let me undo this. There's file. We can do file dash name like that. Size. Oh, we are using underscores here, so let's keep that. Okay. So let me find where I put that, which is here. So we're gonna do file underscore info. Oh, is it file name? Wait, did I use file name there? Okay, it is file name. All right. So file name, great. Let's do this size one. Okay, just with that one, let's see if things are working. So I'm gonna refresh, and if I click on this, you see I see the file name over here. Just like when I click on one of these, at least the file name changes. So we just need the rest of the details. So I'm just gonna do a few. File name. Here there's file size maybe, but here we are grabbing an item called size. And then here there's date. Date created and date updated. And same thing here, date Oops. Okay, so let's see which one of those doesn't work. There we go. Let's put type as well there. So I'm going to duplicate here. This is going to be file type. But here I'm just going to call it type. And so let's go back to where that part is. Let me grab this to use that to find the place. So before you know the size, maybe you can check the type. So let's do type and then the type. Okay, great. So refresh. Okay. All right. So this is good. At least data is changing there as we're doing this. Very nice. Now, also when reloading, we want to put a loader here to show that we are loading something, right? At least to show us something here of a loading table. So what we're going to do first of all is whenever we click on one of these, or whenever we want to refresh the table, we want to put a loader, show it here, and then reload the table. So now that all should happen in the refresh place. So we do have a file here, a GIF that is spinning like this. We can't see it here because I've loaded it in here, but this is how it is. So it's loader.gif. So what would happen is if I go to my table, the main table, which is this part here. Okay, so that stuff is hidden there. Let me look at the T body, and at the very end of it, maybe let me put it here. Okay, I'm trying to Okay, what I want to do is, instead of doing all of this, let's go to the refresh. So you see the refresh function here. The moment we get in here, we are refreshing the table. So what we should do is start showing some loading progress. So what we can do, for example, is grab this thing we are grabbing in here. Let tbody, let's grab it. So we'll grab it from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say show a loader, and we'll do this. Let tbody, and then we'll say tbody dot inner HTML is equal to, and then we write some text like loading, please wait, like that. Okay, so let's see how that works. Now, when I refresh the page, you will see the loading, please wait for a millisecond, and then it disappears. Now, in order for us to see it properly, let's tell PHP to sleep a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, and right at the top here, I'm just gonna put sleep for 2 seconds, just like that. So that way, if I refresh my page, you see loading, please wait for 2 seconds, and then it disappears. Okay, great. But let's fix it a little bit better. Let me increase that to 3 seconds. And then here, I'm going to put table row like that so that it follows the table, because we are sending this inside a table. So let me open and closing table row, then table data, and close table data as well. And then here we're gonna do column span. I want this to span many columns. Let's just put 10 for maximum effect. And then a style is equal to text align center, and then padding 10 pixels. Okay, at least so that it looks like a reasonable, you see there, loading, please wait, and then it finally loads. Now, instead of putting that, we can instead put a loader, right? Let me put backticks here so that I can do multi-line editing here without a problem. So I'm gonna lower the table, the TD there, like this. Let me punch it in a little bit, maybe do this, and do like this, and like that. Okay, cool. So instead of the text loading, we can instead put a loader. So here I will do image source is equal to, and then the source in this case is just the loader.gif. It's not in any folder, and then we close it like so. Now we need styles here because it's quite big, so I'm gonna do width, let's try 100 pixels, same with height, let's try 100 pixels. All right, so let me refresh, and this is what you see instead. And then once we load, it's like that. So let me refresh. So no need to say loading, please wait. That should do just fine. So this should happen every time I reload the table. So we can do that by simply telling the table to refresh and then supplying the mode we are in. So the refresh right now does not have a mode. So what I'll do is here, I'm gonna say mode is equal to, and then right now we'll have a default value, which is my drive. Wait, could that be the default mode? Yes. So that would be the default mode right there. But then we can supply any mode that we want. And then when we switch, where are we switching from? Let's find that JavaScript. Let's see. So it's on the submenu, yes. Submenu.show, no, not on the submenu. Table.select, refresh. That's for the uploader. Wait a second, what's happening here? There's a function that runs when we click. So mode.set, okay, so it's called mode. Should be right at the top, right? It's this one here, mode.set. And then once we finish setting the mode, here we can do table.refresh. And then we can supply the current mode. So mode.current, put it here. That way we know, it can know what kind of data to refresh to depending on the mode that it is in. So I'm gonna refresh, and there we go. Now if I click on favorites, I get the same reaction. If I click here, I get the same reaction. Now the thing is, if I click on this, we see some data here, right? But if I click here, the data remains. So this doesn't make any sense at all, because if the table is being refreshed, it means there's no item selected. So we should make this go away as well. So once we do table.refresh, it's better to put it in the refreshing of the table, because then we know every time the table is refreshing, info should disappear. So file info.hide should run as well. So let's see here, where was the table.refresh? So right here where we are showing the loader, hide file info. So here we're just going to say file info dot hide like that. Okay, and that's it. So let's come back. If I refresh, it's hidden. And if I click here, hidden. But let's try and select a file. So we see information, but when I click on another one, it's hidden like that. Okay. Let's remove this. Now, in some places where internet speeds are very fast, where you don't need a loader, sometimes if the internet speeds are too fast, the loader may become annoying, because as I click here, you see that very brief moment when the loader attempts to start showing and then it disappears. Just get rid of it if it's not serving you correctly. So for example, you can just delete this part here, and that will end the loader's lifetime. Okay, so I'll refresh. There we go. For us with low internet speeds, the loader is a must. Okay, so with that in mind, we are good to go. Now we even have a mode here. Now, when we are refreshing the table and sending information, since we have a mode now, we can send that as part of the data. So here where we're saying data type, that's great. Get files, but let's add one more item, and this is the mode. And we'll supply whatever mode was given there, like so. That way on the other side on the API, we can know exactly what mode we are in. So let's see here, get files is here. And I want to grab the mode from here. So here I'm going to do this and say, so the mode will determine the query. So I'm going to say mode is equal to mode. Okay. So my drive will just be this. If actually we can just use a switch statement. Let's do switch mode. So if the mode is my drive, then this is the query we run. Right? Great. And then the default, if none of these work, they all fail, we paste the same one there. Now I want different cases here for each. So let's check here, what do we got? We have favorites, we have recent, we have trash. So let me try trash here. Here let's put recent. Here favorites. So favorites, recent, trash. Favorites, recent, trash. Okay, good. So that's our switch statements. You can leave spaces here after the breaks like so. Make it more user readable. So here all we have to do is just run a different query. The query will be run here and we grab the rows that are returned. So for trash, we'll need another column to know what's trash and what isn't, because we don't want to delete anything. We just want to label this as trash. So here we'll say select all from my drive. We'll put a where clause and say where trash is equal to 1, like that. Okay? So we're going to create a column called trash, and we can set it to 0 if it's not trash and 1 if it's trash. And then recent here, we're going to order by the date updated, because when we update an item, the date updated is updated as well. And so let's see, descending, yes, that's correct. Maybe we can put a function here and say date like this, but I think this will work just fine as well. And then the favorites, here we can do where favorite is equal to 1. So we'll create another column called favorite, and we'll set 1 when they're favorited. Okay, so 2 columns that are required, favorite and trash. So let's go to our table here and go to the My Drive database. So mydrive.db. There is the My Drive table. Let's go to its structure, and here let's add 2 more columns. So this one will be trash, and this one is a tiny int. It's going to be length of 1 because we just want 0 or 1. So the default value will put a 0. Same thing as a favorite. Tiny int 1, default value 0. And let's hit save. Now here we'll add an index for each one of these because these will be used to query data. So let's put an index. You could put a compound interest, not compound interest, but compound index in this case, where the index is dependent, one index for both of these, but we're not going to do that. Okay, trash, favorite, great. So this means now we can actually, oops, things don't seem to be working as intended. Okay, so let's see the problem. Let's go to inspect element console.log. So whenever it says JSON parse unexpected character at line so and so, it just means there was an error here and it's messing up because everything that's echoed here, including errors, comes back as a result. So it's messing up the JSON here. So what I need to do is echo it out. So I can do that using console.log. And then we're gonna do xhr dot response text. So let's see the response text before we do anything with it. I'm gonna refresh. So here it's showing just fine, but if I click there, oh, it is actually showing. Oh, look at that. So what was the error? So maybe it didn't load properly. And instead of removing this, I'm just gonna mute it for a second. I may need to use it later. All right. I think I hadn't refreshed the page maybe. So there we go. No favorites, right? Trash, no trash. Favorites, no favorites. Recent, yeah, most recent. Drive, that's the whole list. Favorites, recent, trash. Okay, so as you can see, all of this is working well. We have our loader. We are changing places here, which is awesomeness. Now, since trash and favorites can be in here, but we should just know that this is a favorited thing. So in order to have that, we can put a star somewhere here. So what we'll do is I'm going to try to, let's see here. Let's go down here where we create the not file info, but the refresh of the table right there. So we have this icon here. Let me do this so I can see this better. Let me duplicate that, and I want to try another icon. This is probably the star fill. I don't know if that's truly the class name, but I just want to see. So that's the one, star fill. And if I don't put fill, it's just an empty star. Let's see here. Oh, awesomeness. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this to show if it's a favorited thing or not. So by just adding a star somewhere, we'll show that this is a favorited item or not. So I can put one column here anywhere. So maybe after the icon, the file name, maybe after the file name. So here, what I'll do is put an if statement. Actually, let's do this. Let's create a star. We're just gonna put star here, like so. All right, good. So then let's create the star here. So we're gonna say let star be equal to, so as a default, it's going to be, I'll come back here like so. It's going to be a star, an empty star like this. Okay, simple and straightforward, nothing to it. But we need to accommodate that in the column. So let's go to the main page. There we go. After the file name, let's add one more column. And we won't put any text in there per se. It can be empty. So I'm gonna do that, and there we go. So we have a star here, but not favorited at all. But when we do favorite something, it should show. So what I want to do is go to the table, go to browse, and I just want to intentionally make one of these a favorite. So there's favorite here. Let me make this one, this image here, I'll change that to a 1. So at least there's one favorited item here. If I refresh, it doesn't show yet, but let's see how we can make it show. So if we go down to where we are creating our table from, that's the table refresh page, which is right there. So here we can put an if statement to change the value of star. So we can say something like if, let's put one of these guys in question. So I can say if favorite. Okay. Now, since favorite is 0 or 1, if we just say if favorite, it will check for true or false. So if it's a 0, that's false. If it's 1, then it's true. So if it's true, then we change the content of favorite, of the star, sorry. So this one will be a star fill. Now also, I want to change the color of this. So I'm going to try and see what, oh boy. I want to see what class creates this pink here. So I'm just looking for my table here. And let me see the table body. Let's look at this one, this first part. So it's class 39. So instead of 34, let's put class 39 there. Okay, cool. So if I now refresh, look at that. So this isn't working well. So if rows I favorite, let's try is equal to 1. Let's explicitly say that. And let's see. Okay, so there it works actually. Now it seems the class has an extra, something extra here going on. So let me just do a comparison. Oh, I could do a comparison, but see, we have this here. Now, if you don't like this and you want to inspect the element, we can switch this off for a second. So I'm gonna go and find the on context menu. What I could do is do that to remove it. That way I get the normal thing. So what I want to see is what styles are affecting this, because this one is slightly this side, these guys are centered. So let me see what we've got on this that we don't have on the others. So let's see. So looking for a very specific class. Okay, so class cursor pointer. That's the only thing here, it seems. Okay, I can't figure out the class here. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so it doesn't look like there's anything in particular here that's okay. Maybe not. Okay, I'll leave that for now. When something is favorited, it will look like this now. Or instead, what I could do is this. Let me inspect the element here, and let me look at the color and grab this color here. Oops. So that instead of changing the entire class from 34, I can just add a style here and say color, and put that color there. So if I refresh, it's now centered properly, but it shows that it's favorited. Now you can limit the width of this to give more room for the others. So that's up to you. And maybe we can reduce the font size as well. Let's go to the actual table and just reduce the font size. Maybe, where is this table? There's a class there, but let's put a style and just say font size 12 pixels. Let's see how that works. Yeah, maybe too small. Let's put 13. Looks about, could be better. Okay, let me limit the width of this one. If I come to this particular one, the file name, I don't know what scope is for anyway. So let me just change that to style, and I can say max width. Let's try 200 pixels. Okay, maybe that was a bit much. Let's try 100. Doesn't seem to work at all. Okay. Let me cut that and put it on the here. Max width 100 pixels. That's working very well. How about 150? We can go to 200. Okay, much better. All right, so far so good. Yeah, very nice. So we can select, see some detail here, right click, and more buttons here. We can see which one is favorited. That's good. And we can move around and see what's in the trash, what's more recent, what are the favorites, and you can see automatically, because this one is favorited, we can see it here in the favorites list, my drive, the main place. Okay,